who do you think this falls on? You know, the general manager, obviously Gettleman for moving up and getting them in the first round. Last two NFL drafts ago, Pat. But my contention is if I think it's on Mara and Tisch here to basically say, listen, he can't represent this franchise.
No doubt, Moose. No doubt. I would group those three together. I mean, you're right. It falls on ownership ultimately, no doubt. I mean, I have no doubt. Let me say this. I have no doubt in my mind that if the Giants are able to confirm this story, that he will not be a Giant longer than a minute after they figure that out. I mean, I have no doubt in my mind about that. And I would also say that the Giants' statement that they came out with, it was saying that we are aware of the situation. We have been in contact with DeAndre. We have no further comment at this time. Now, he hasn't turned himself in yet, so it's a little confusing that the Giants are saying they've talked to him, but he still hasn't turned himself in. So what did they even talk about? So I talked to some people in law enforcement about that statement who kind of read that as the Giants saying, listen, we talked to him and we told him what he should do. Now, they didn't say this, but this is law enforcement telling me. It looks like them saying, listen, we advised him on the proper course, and now this is on him, kind of thing. So you could even interpret that, depending on the people you're talking to, as them already starting to distance themselves, which is a good thing. But this falls on Mara and Tisch, too. When you're talking about retaining Dave Gettleman as a general manager and saying he deserves to finish what he started, what exactly has he started here? That's my question. They can't win. Their culture is not better. I mean, I'm struggling to find a rap sheet like for Odell Beckham that looks like DeAndre Baker's alleged rap sheet right now. So I'm not exactly sure what he's built here, other than possibly drafting their franchise QB of the future. So it's not just on ownership to get a guy like this out of the building immediately and to take ownership for getting him in the building in the first place. It is also on them to decide if they have the right person picking their team, because they almost fired him a couple months ago. And, it might be getting time for new ownership soon.
New ownership or
new leadership soon. Sorry, not ownership, leadership.
Pat Leonard, our guest from the New York Daily News and SNY, when Mara comes out and says that Dave Gettleman has to get his batting average up, right? We all assume that put Gettleman pretty square on the hot seat. Whether that, necessarily made sense in the time and allowing him to go through the draft and all that stuff, we can talk about another time. But when your owner says you have to get your batting average up, and now you have someone who maybe, if these allegations are true, has brought a lot of embarrassment onto this team, and you're saying that if someone was going to get in trouble, you're not surprised that it's DeAndre Baker, not to this extent, but that he would get in trouble. Do you think this goes as a negative against Dave Gettleman's batting average, so to speak?
Oh, no question, Maggie. Especially, different circumstances, obviously, but this is 2 straight draft classes to start for Dave Clean Up the Culture Gettleman, where he's had a guy, either arrested or a warrant out for his arrest. I mean, we had Kyle Lauletta from the first draft, right? And now that's obviously not the same thing as what DeAndre Baker is accused of. But I'm just talking about, when you're beating your chest saying that part of your selling point, and you asked me, is this part of his batting average? This is absolutely part of his batting average, because John Mara and Steve Tisch and the Giants were not just embarrassed by the constant losing. They were incredibly embarrassed by, now you go all the way back to Josh Brown, which falls on ownership and falls on John Mara. But then you come up to McAdoo's second and final season, where it was just the locker room. There was no control over the locker room. There were guys quitting on the field. There were guys ratting out McAdoo behind the scenes. We had the rats on the back page. So the culture cleanup was a real thing coming from the top down. We're the Giants. We believe we should run things a certain way. We feel like we've gotten away from that. And part of Gettleman's batting average was getting the team on a winning track, but also getting them on a cleaner track that represents the franchise and the organization in a better way. And so I think it's just cut and dried that when you use assets to trade up and acquire a player like this, when basically you're trying, and Gettleman has admitted himself that he made a mistake in trying to win and rebuild at the same time. And when you stretch and when you push and when you go outside your comfort zone, maybe perhaps sometimes you take a risk that's not worth taking. And if this is true, again, there's still allegations, but if this is true, this certainly goes against the main part of Dave Gettleman's batting average. The idea that you're going to both improve the win total, but also turn the Giants into a franchise that ownership and fans can once again be proud of.
Pat, do you think Gettleman will get fired?
Yes. I think, yeah. I think that this was already trending towards him stepping away, like retiring, like them announcing that he's retiring and that they're mutually parting. And, he's always told us about how he wanted to find the franchise quarterback for the Giants and retire to Cape Cod. That's a line he's thrown out a couple times. And it was always trending in that direction here, I think, this season, if not before the season, then at the end of the season. I don't think it's a stretch to say that if these allegations are true, and he was already on his absolute last strike as a general manager, and it's really hard to nail down exactly what's improved here, I don't think it's crazy to say at all that it's time to move on.